This week we've been exploring how we can hold on to hope in the face of trials and challenges that we face throughout our lives. And today we're going to be looking at how we can hold on to hope in the face of shame and guilt. How we can hold on to a hope that gives us freedom from shame and guilt. I'll be using Psalm 32 to walk through this process from guilt to freedom with David, who wrote the psalm. I'm going to read the psalm to start all the way through, and then we're going to pick up the process afterwards. So Psalm 32. Blessed is the one whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Blessed is the one whose sin the Lord does not count against them, and in whose spirit is no deceit. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away. Through my groaning all day long, for day and night, your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then I acknowledged my sin to you, and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord. And you forgave the guilt of my sin. Therefore let all the faithful pray to you while you may be found. Surely the rising of the mighty waters will not reach them. You are my hiding place, and you will protect me from trouble, and surround me with the songs of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Do not be like the horse or the mule, which have no understanding, but must be controlled by a bit and bridle, or they will not come to you. Many are the woes of the wicked, but the Lord's unfailing love surrounds the one who trusts in him. Rejoice in the Lord and be glad, you righteous. Sing, all you who are upright in heart. So much like grief and fear, shame can overwhelm us and overcome us and be all-consuming. The really difficult thing about shame, though, and guilt is that whereas some things may cause us to seek out God, to run to him in our pain and cry out to him, often shame causes us to run away from God. Because we feel inadequate and unworthy and awful about something that we've said or done or thought, we hide from God and we shy away from coming to him. We run away from the only place that offers us freedom and relief. And David describes this state in verses 3 and 4 of the psalm. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away. For day and night your hand was heavy on me, my strength was sapped, as in the heat of summer. His strength was drained and his guilt had taken over and manifests itself in these feelings of just utter despair and darkness. And there's that phrase that we have, isn't there, being eaten away by guilt. And that is what David is saying, that his bones were wasting away. That we feel like we're less and less of ourselves because of the all-consuming guilt and shame that we feel. So like David did, it's important that we acknowledge that. It does us no good to keep silent. To hide away and pretend all is well ends up in wasting away. So we admit that we are suffering and that our shame is overwhelming and that keeping it to ourselves is nothing that's going to help the situation. And so as David did in verse 5, instead we choose to come before God in sorrow and confession, saying sorry to him for our wrongdoing. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. We read that God does not just forgive our sin, but he also deals with the guilt too. Once we're forgiven, we don't have to dwell on that error and the shame any longer. We read of God's forgiveness and the difference that it makes in verses 1 and 2. Blessed is the one whose transgressions are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the one whose sin the Lord does not count against him, and in whose spirit there's no deceit. Because of Jesus' sacrifice, our transgressions are forgiven, our sins are covered. God does not count our wrongdoing against us. Those who come to God in confession and who are forgiven are blessed. And the final step, once that we've acknowledged our state of wasting away and our groaning and our distress, once we've brought all our guilt and shame and our sin before God and we've received the incredible forgiveness that he gives us, the final stage is kind of mapped out in verses 6 and 8. Therefore let all the faithful pray to you while you may be found. Surely the rising of the mighty waters will not reach them. You are my hiding place and will protect me from trouble. Surround me with the songs of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. God gives us a fresh start, a chance to start all over again with him. David encourages us to take hold of this new step, move forward with a renewed obedience. We need to humbly accept the forgiveness that God offers us and embrace with our whole heart and our whole lives a renewed obedience to God. God will not leave us alone, but he will teach us and guide us. He will show us the way to go, and he'll watch over us with a loving eye day and night. Shame and guilt can cause us great pain and suffering, and they can also prevent us from coming to God. We feel as though we are far from him and also beyond reaching. But through Jesus, God offers us sacrifice and forgiveness, which brings us life and a fresh start, a fresh chance to walk with him. We can hold on to that promise that God does not want us to be consumed by guilt or death. We can hold on to the hope that sets us free from sin and shame.